Welcome to Big Blend Radio, where we celebrate variety and how it adds spice to quality of life.
Okay.
Hey, everybody, it is World Whale Day today. It is celebrated every year on the third Sunday in February, and it's been going pretty much since the 1980s. 1980, it began as a World Whale Day in Hawaii, in Maui, Hawaii, to honor the humpback whales. Which used to swim off the coast on the tropical island. And it was born from the idea of Greg Kaufman, who is the founder of the Pacific Whale Foundation. And he really wanted to raise awareness of the threat of extinction faced by humpback whales. In fact, this is one of the biggest conservation stories proving that people do care. And whether or not they've seen a humpback whale or even seen the ocean, people across this country, even in the Midwest, who don't have the ocean, but they do have big Great Lakes that feel like oceans, supported this cause to help save the humpback whales. I mean, around the world, people came together over this. So it's pretty incredible. You don't always have to go there to save them, but it is magical to see a whale. And that brings us to today's guests, Steve and Karen Wilson, Mr. and Mrs. Wild of Asheville. You hear them on our First Tuesday Adventures in Asheville show every month, where we talk about what to experience in the beautiful region of West North Carolina. We're talking about the Pisgah National Forest, the Blue Ridge Parkway. We're talking about Smoky Mountain National Park, the Appalachia country. It's not Appalachia. Otherwise, you will have an apple thrown at you, right? So welcome back, guys. How are you?
Good. How about you?
It's good. It's good. So you're a little landlocked from the ocean where you are. But the truth is, and I love that we're doing something a little bit different today. You've been on our road trip shows. You're coming on you're part of our upcoming nature destination show that's happening February 23rd with, folks from all over the country talking about destinations to connect with nature. But this is special. As soon as I heard it's Whale Day, I thought, Steve and Karen have to be on. Nancy and I know that you've traveled the world to watch wildlife. You're huge on conservation and protecting them. But when it comes to whales, you have had a whale of a time. Oh, I didn't say that. I did. That's so sick. That's pathetic. But yeah, let's talk about this. Steve, where was the first time you and Karen, well, Steve, you're out of Southern California, so you had to see whales out there, right?
Yeah, I've seen them off the coast. We were sitting like on the coast of, maybe outside of, I want to say somewhere in Orange County, maybe off Newport Beach
Dana
or somewhere
Point,
like that.
yeah.
Watching them migrate, the gray whales migrate up north. But the first time Karen and I went and saw whales was up in Cape Cod, and we saw a couple of fin whales, which was pretty exciting for the first time. But not the. We were looking forward to seeing some humpback whales doing their thing there. So after that, we decided let's go do a little research and see where we can start following these guys around. And we've gone outside of Virginia. I'm not sure if we got skunk there. We might have seen a humpback there once.
We didn't see anything.
But when we went to Maui, that's where we hit the jackpot. When you go there in around
Winter.
February, I would say, right? Winter, yeah. And
Winter.
they call it whale soup between the islands and outside in Maui. And
there are so many whales.
Really? Wow.
Humpback whales, yeah. It really, as soon as you leave the harbor, you're seeing them. There are times you're snorkeling off the beach, you can hear them singing. That's how many there are. It's crazy.
Yep, we're just
you can hear them sing
right off the beach.
Yeah,
right off the beach.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's amazing. I know that when we lived in San Diego and Mexico, pretty much like October, November through to February, you'd see them go back and forth, go down to the Sea of Cortez, and then they start making their way back up. And we went on some whale watching excursions that took us into both countries. And, I'm glad they have protocols so you don't really overtake, you want to give them space. Otherwise, they'll take your space. They're a little bit bigger, right? They're a little bit bigger, but they're just so magical. And you think you'd be nervous on this little boat looking at these magnificent,
Not at all.
beings, but there's this connection that happens that I think is pretty amazing. Yeah. So this was, Karen, this was the first tours you took was actually through the Pacific Whale Foundation, the foundation that started World Whale Day.
It is, absolutely. Because same thing, we had read about the story and just absolutely loved what they were doing. And just the fact they had naturalists on board to help, educate people and answer any questions. Where, especially Steve. Steve seems to be the one that comes up with questions. He's inquisitive.
Well,
I try to stump them if I can.
Oh, I see. There it is. There it is. Well, but the whales, I mean, I think they were successful with the humpback whales, right? And
Right.
that whole conservation program was successful, but whales around the world are still being harpooned and still being poached and used.
Yes.
Yet something I learned through this whole World Whale Day, I didn't know is that they really take out carbon from the Earth's atmosphere. They say that if not for whaling, the animals might have removed 2 million tons of carbon from Earth's atmosphere. And so they are really important, and sperm whales are like our tool of cleaning the atmosphere from carbon. So I didn't realize how important they are to our survival. And it always comes back to that in the web of life. I'm sure you guys, experience that too.
Definitely.
Take out this species and how is it going to affect humans? It will in some way at the end of it,
Right.
So, I had no idea about that with them. I also learned, they talk about whales swallowing people like Moby Dick and, the book, the story. Apparently, it is rare and physically impossible for them to swallow a human being. So just know that, everybody. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, their throat's too small.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's amazing. You have incredible whale photos that we're going to put on a slideshow up on blendradioandtv.com. So when you went out with the whales, tell us a little bit, or like in Cape Cod, were you on a boat to see them? Because it seems like you also got underwater and swam with them.
Mm-hmm. We did both.
Okay.
Well, that was actually in the Kingdom of Tonga, Kingdom of Tonga down there in the South Pacific, where they actually allow boats to go out and allow you to go into the water and with a guide, of course, and get up close and personal. Sometimes a little too close and personal with the humpbacks when they're
been very close. Yes.
Yeah, the southern colony, the ones that summer in Australia, they come up to Tonga for the winter and to breed, and they're it's not quite as thick whales, I'd say, as Maui, because it's a little more spread out. But it's
worth it after hours of searching. It's worth it when you have that one moment where you have a calf come up to you, so curious and like so close, and just looks at you. I started crying the first time it happened. I'm taking pictures and crying.
Oh my gosh.
Well, yeah, we've been charged by angry mothers a couple times, and that's always a rush.
Yeah, that's like a wakey. Start to learn like how precious life is, right? It's we've had that with elephants and rhinos and buffalo, and Nancy's been charged by a hippo, and then but then there's this thing of going, dude, that was so cool, but it's hard, not at the moment, like, oops, I peed in my pants moment, but then it's but then it's like, wow, that was close, but there's got to be that healthy respect of them, like you were saying, sometimes getting too close to let them have their space, right?
Yep.
And I think that's important, because if
it is,
I've also read that, people swimming with dolphins are actually making dolphins sick from sunscreen and perfumes and things like that too.
I've heard that.
Yeah. So there's something for us to kind of be aware of when we go into nature's territory. Because what I've heard is really the more we pollute the ocean, the worse it is for the whales. It's not just poaching and then whaling, which is still happening in different countries in Europe. Some of it is like the pictures you see, it's like a bloodbath. I'm like,
it's disgusting.
Do you think that seeing them really does affect that too when you have those experiences? It's like,
oh yeah, definitely.
They're they've done so much. It's kind of like they're like the horse of the sea when you think about what horses have done for mankind.
True.
Yeah. And it's like, here, we're going to pay you back by, here's a bloodbath. Thank you. And, that's got to be traumatic because it's in their own water.
Yeah.
But But when you're in the ocean and you saw a mom and her baby, did it kind of remind you of the elephants too, the way elephants are with their babies? Um,
A
It
little
they
does.
bit.
just seem to be kind of like the elephants
Yeah.
of the sea, you know,
Yeah.
that
I would say that.
connection.
Yeah, I would say that because you have this gigantic creature, same thing, basically harmless unless you're going to do something stupid, which, you'd be crazy too. But
Yeah.
um,
But
they're just majestic, magical, same thing. The way they live, just, and the undersea factor is just, phenomenal. Just the way they can dive down, the singing, like we were talking about. There was one time in Tonga, we were on the boat and the singing, there was a male below singing, like right below the boat, how many feet down, and it was vibrating the boat when we got in the water. I've never felt anything like that before, where it just vibrated through my whole body.
there's
Wow.
something about the frequency matched the aluminum boat hull or something like that, and it was just vibrating. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
absolutely
in
insane.
Tonga, the whales you have some of them are pretty dark. Are those still the humpbacks that are really dark like that?
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, it's just the
okay.
deeper, darker water, I think, that makes it appear
Yeah.
that way.
Oh, the
Yeah.
mommy and baby are so cute. And it seems like a lot of
I
fish are
know.
hanging on them. Are the fish kind of
Yes.
like remora fish that hang on sharks?
Right. Yeah. They're the
Mhm.
same thing. Remoras.
Oh,
Yeah. When
okay.
they I think it's when they come up to the up into the warmer water. They usually have the barnacles. By the time they get up to Tonga, the barnacles start dying off, and so they
Yeah.
get a little more clean. Because when you see them down where it's colder water, they'll have more barnacles on them, so they
Yeah,
get
that
cleaned up
one.
as well. And
Yeah, the remoras, I mean, that's like a really good coexistence, how the remoras work with
Mhm.
sharks and with whales. Did you see
It is.
sharks when you were out there with the whales, or did they kind of split off?
Mm-mm. No.
we never saw sharks. No, we
Mm-mm.
saw a large barracuda one time, and that was kind of trippy because they kind of
Ooh,
just watch you.
Yeah.
ooh, yeah. Yeah, no, it's amazing. And then the blowhole's got to
Yeah.
be just that big blowhole. Um,
Mm.
I remember, Nancy and I were in a pet sit in near Merritt Island in Florida, Satellite Beach, Merritt Island area.
Mm.
And the
Mhm.
couple, we were watching their house. And for those who are new to the show, we travel and pet sit across the country because we get to hang out with animals and do our work. It's not a money making thing. It's just it's fun. We get to hang out
Yeah.
with animals. And where we are right now,
Yep.
we get to feed possum and raccoons. And we think there's a pregnant raccoon now. And
Oh boy,
Oh,
fox and all kinds
that'll
of
be
stuff.
cute.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean,
cool.
this connection, this coexistence can happen, and it's about having healthy respect and providing,
Right.
where you can. But
Mhm.
this dolphin came up, so their house was right on, like, little docks with all the boats, those little canals that they have in
Mhm.
Florida. Um,
Hmm.
so I was out like 5 in the morning, the sunrise was coming, and I was tiptoeing around, and there's this dolphin, and the only way I knew the dolphin was there, because it was still pretty dark, was to hear it through its blowhole. And it was like
Oh,
Oh.
everything in me stopped. Like you talk about that theory, I was like, that was this moment of you were just like hearing this breath of this other being, and
Right.
it was hanging up on the side and it's friendly, and I was just like,
mm.
oh my gosh, it's got the little blowhole. It's so cute. But you got to be careful of male dolphins, I've heard. But anyway, it
Yeah.
was a
Mm.
magical experience. It could have been a porpoise for all I know. I don't know.
No.
Mm.
You know, but it's just that.
Yeah.
So the blowhole sounds have got to be a trip to hear that.
Hmm.
It was so quiet that morning. I think it felt like we were the only two living souls at that moment in time.
See, that's so cool.
Two hearts
Yeah,
beating
it is.
at just one time. Yep. See, Phil Collins could
Mhm.
sing this. Yeah. But that's cool. I mean, so you also have photos of beluga whales, and you guys know I have a trippy, weird thing about beluga whales. I dream
You're
about
telling us about
them.
that.
Mhm.
I dream about sleeping and not sleeping, but swimming with them. I could be sleeping underwater. Who knows? I could, whenever you sleep, you could do. It's my dreaming, my nighttime dreaming, but their faces are so
I know.
curious and cute.
Mhm.
You know,
They are.
they are
Yeah.
amazing. So You guys got in cold water then to get these photos.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a tough one for me because I hate the cold water, but we had the thick, dry suits. And it was still cold in that water, but once we started seeing them swim around and hearing them sing, didn't matter anymore.
Wow. Wow. So,
Yeah.
I mean, so that was in Churchill?
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
In Canada. Oh, wow. So you
the
got
polar
to see
bears up there too.
Yeah, we went to see the polar bears. Yeah. And then we saw the northern lights. It was a wonderful trip.
That's a
Yeah,
magical
saw
trip.
some sled dogs. Actually, did a dry on they had the dry sled, I guess you would call it that, where they had the wheels instead, and we got to take a ride on that with the sled dogs pulling us around. That was pretty fun.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Well, going with the beluga whales, so you get off the boat and you're diving. So you guys had to go get, learn how to dive and hold your breath.
No,
and all
actually,
that
this was snorkeling.
It was so
Oh,
snorkeling.
no way.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think it was similar to the whales where they don't allow diving because they say the bubbles freaks them out.
Oh,
so only
I didn't know
snorkeling at the surface. So you got to hope they come to you. So, that's the good way, that let them come to you, let them dictate. You keep your distance and let them dictate.
Yeah, they're curious for the most part.
Oh, that's fascinating. Because they're kind of like, who are you? What are you doing? Checking you out. But that one beluga whale is just so cute. It's like, hey, let's have a party.
I know.
Steve, what brew do you have? And, yeah.
I know.
They want to come check into the B&B. Everyone, lion-rose.com before I forget, the Lion and the Rose bed and breakfast. They have no whales around them, but they do have bears.
No, unfortunately.
You have bears,
we do have breakfast and beer.
Yeah.
And beer.
Breakfast, beer, and bears. That's it.
Yeah.
And dogs.
And bears.
There you go.
And the cutest little Shih Tzus. Did I say that correctly? I don't know. But so now we're also like North Carolina has some whales that are also aren't they endangered the right way? We were just talking about that before we started recording. The most endangered whale species in North America, in the North Atlantic, is the right whale. Less than 400 remaining, and I know that there's big efforts going from Georgia up to North Carolina, on the waters there with conservation groups. Have you seen any of them out in North Carolina or South Carolina, Georgia?
No, we haven't seen the right whales. Not the northern. We've seen southern right whales in South Africa, but not the northern species.
We saw whales in South Africa too, and great white sharks. Yeah.
We did the great white sharks too.
Did you get in the cage thing? Did you?
We did. So that's actually connected to the whales here. This is connected to the whales. So Steve's dream, one of his dreams, was to swim or get in the cage with the great white. So I conquered that fear, and I did that with him.
I'm sleeping and dreaming about beluga whales, and you're sleeping and dreaming about getting in with sharks. Okay, Karen, Karen's just swirling around with everything. She's like, I'll take it all.
I was so afraid to do that one. Trust me. But I did it, so then we had to take the whales up another notch. That's why I said, okay, we've done several years of whale watching. Let's look at getting in the water with whales. And he looks at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, you want great white sharks, and I want humpback whales.
You're behind a cage.
So we did both.
Wow. Yeah, but still the great whites, man, they do kind of have that freaky look, man. But I dig them.
They do.
I like sharks.
I'll have to think of the video of the screaming girls in the cage that I have.
Yes, guilty.
Oh, no way.
One of them's me. One of them's me.
Oh,
the shark started chewing on the cage. Yeah.
Yeah. He started, or she started. It was a female. Started chewing the edge of the cage, and me and this girl next to me, I don't even know how we screamed underwater. We just saw that and started screaming underwater.
And I'm laughing.
Oh, no way, Steve. Were you were laughing?
Oh, sure. It was funny.
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know. I've seen, living in South Africa, there's, a lot of surfer friends came back without any arms and legs and things at times, it was pretty brutal because we had, I don't trust any of it because they have shark nets, and that is bogus, right? I know they're important, but I just look at that, there were different kinds of species of sharks, that would actually get caught in the net and they would throw up their babies into the other side. So the babies were raising themselves on humans, on the other side.
Right. Jeez.
And so, so I remember going when I was in, I don't know, whatever school before high school, we went to the Sharks Board in Durban on a bus trip and made me puke because of the diesel of the bus. But anyway, they cut open a shark and showed us like, this is what a live birth would be. These are the ones with the little sacks that you find on the beach and stuff. And so they were teaching us all about it because we'd see them like the sardines would come in. This was in the Natal coast up in Margate and the South Coast it was called. And Margate and all of that area, the sardines would come in. It was like this big silver thing would just happen all up the South Coast. It was crazy. And the sharks, you are not going to stop them. I don't care what you do. People would go out there on boats and try and beat them off get over it. It's happening. And they would dive over. But I had a thing, when we lived in Shelley Beach, it was really Shelley. It was really rocky, very rocky cliffs and rocks. It was just a very dramatic beach, but also really beautiful coves and all of that. And I used to go out and it was almost like you'd get into the surf and it would just almost like dip down into like it was just like you're going down. There was no like pretty little beach and you walk in and wade in. It's like you're going in.
Right.
And it would get really cold. But the sharks, believe it or not, even with all the rocks and everything, the sharks hung out there. It was one of the most dangerous beaches for sharks. Well, what do you think I did after school every day? Oh, I'm going out to the beach. And I don't know, it was like a death thing. Like, not really, because I didn't feel like I was going to, but then you'd get out further and further. And I'd feel that like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Go back. But I would get this tin can, a coffee can, and scoop shells. You'd go down, it would leave, you'd scoop them up, and you'd find all kinds of shells. And you just hope it crushed, the glass and everything. That would be all frosted, tumbled glass and everything. It was a very dramatic place, but there was that little, kids are like that. You have that little, I can do it. The shark's not going to get me. Then you're out there and you're like, it's going to get me, man. And you're like paddling back and then you're like, don't kick your legs. But it's and then when we got to this country, we went snorkeling with my uncle out in Florida, Port St. Lucie area, and there was a shark. And I'm like, hell no. And he's like, no, just hang out. And he got bitten by a shark. Not then, but right before we had arrived back to the States, he'd gotten bitten by a shark. Yeah. And the teeth were stuck in him. And the doctors are like, they kept coming out of his leg. And he thought it was the coolest thing on the planet. He's like, I got bit by a shark, man. And these teeth that would just like weasel their way out every like few months. Here's another tooth. And he thought it was the best thing on the planet. Because,
wow.
Well, it's pretty cool. I don't know. We're all weird. Yeah. But sharks are, I think they're misunderstood like snakes, and maybe their eyes freak people out. Jaws didn't help, but they're beautiful, man. And they're so important for the ocean too. They're an apex species, like our wolves. And it's they're cool. I mean, do you ever get nervous about that when you go in water about sharks, other than the great white that Steve's just going to hang out with and have a beer with?
It's always in the back of your mind.
It's always in the back of my mind because I'm more afraid of him than he is.
Yeah,
it's
we've seen quite a few sharks on near the shore and off of South Carolina coast and North Carolina coast.
Hawaii too.
Oh yeah,
Hawaii's got the tiger sharks.
Hawaii, yeah.
We had tiger sharks. Was it tiger sharks or sand sharks, Nancy, in Kenya? Tiger sharks. You'd see them. Okay. We'd go out on glass bottom boats in Malindi and all that area in Mombasa.
Oh, okay.
And you're in the reef. And the reef, you could walk through the reef when the tide went out. It was really trippy cool. But you had to watch out for sea urchins and moray eels. Moray eels, they're the ones that are going to get you.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to bite your butt. We had a friend who fell in the reef and went like down on her knee, went into an urchin. Man, she was messed up for a while.
Oh,
sea urchin, dude, like. Yeah. I know.
I've heard
Well,
stories
we're
like
having a
that.
that's
That's
whale of
bad.
a
pretty.
time again. Yeah, but the tiger sharks, people, you'd be out on a glass bottom boat and people would get in the water with them. I'm like, there's a kid. No, that's okay. I'll watch you.
Yeah,
Like,
I'll
put
pass
your
on that.
pinky out. Put your pinky out, you
Hmm.
know. But we had the hammerhead sharks in South Africa. And
Oh,
Oh
okay.
yeah, those are cool.
we went out
Yeah.
on a rubber dinghy thing with
Hmm.
some friends, a couple guys that fish. They were going fishing and everything, and they did deep
Okay.
diving. And it was my friend Melissa and I. We went out, and all of a sudden, and these guys went in the water. They didn't care. They knew what they were doing, but we're
Hmm.
sitting there on this little dinghy, and all of a sudden we're surrounded by hammerhead sharks. And I'm looking at her going, like, no. She's like, they went
Yeah.
in and they're like, dude, they pop their head up. This is so cool. I'm like, why are you still alive? Like, you got to get the boat back. You need to take us back. And they get in the boat and light up a cigarette. I'm going, this is a rubber dinghy. These are sharks with
Yeah.
like teeth thingies on the edge. Like, what are you all doing? Like, do you want me to pee now or later? Like, what are you doing? And we were fine,
Yeah.
but that was cool, man. It's creepy. They're
Yeah.
freaky.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they would really hurt you. They didn't do anything with the guys.
Uh,
I think
I
they
hmm.
were
don't
really
think
good
so.
divers, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they knew their thing, you know, what to do. But
Yeah,
Hmm.
they tend to congregate. I don't know why. I think it's down the Galapagos. I think it's the scout
Galapagos, they
hammerheads
do.
where
Yeah.
they a bunch of them will just congregate. I'm not sure if it's breeding season or what the deal is, but there'll be hundreds of them all in a school, and that'd be something to check out one day.
and
Yeah.
have
We
you been
didn't
to
see it,
Galapagos?
unfortunately.
Oh, you went to
Yes.
We've
Galapagos.
been to Galapagos too, yeah.
Did you
Hmm.
see whales there?
Pilot whales.
Yeah.
Ah, cool. Cool. Pilot
It
whales.
was it was more about the
Oh
land
no, maybe it was false.
in the
Was it false killers or pilots? It might have been false killers.
no, actually I think they were false killers. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're a little smaller, aren't they? The false killers, the
Hmm.
Yeah,
pilot whales.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, a little bit
that's
smaller,
cool. Did you
and
see all the
their head isn't
snakes?
quite as blunt.
The snakes that go
Snakes
after
in
the
Galapagos?
iguanas? Yeah, that go after the
No,
iguanas. Have you seen?
we didn't see that. No, we just saw tons of
No,
iguanas.
everybody
Yeah, the iguanas.
Google.
The marine iguanas are awesome.
Marine
Yeah,
iguanas, yeah.
everyone should Google David Attenborough snakes and iguanas in the Galapagos.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Very cool.
that is crazy because all the snakes just
Yeah.
go after the baby iguanas, and the iguanas are trying to go to the surf.
Hmm.
And here comes these mass
Mhm.
amounts of snakes. It's like a real deal.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Yeah,
anyway,
it's
it's
crazy.
cool.
It's a
I mean, it's
nightmare
kind
for
of
some people.
it would. I know, but it would be cool. Wouldn't you want to see that? Like I would,
I
Yeah.
would.
but I just
I would.
don't want
I
them
would.
next to me. Like
I know
Yeah,
some people would go into
exactly.
convulsions though.
yeah, some people would absolutely have a terror
Yes.
attack. But
Hmm.
I think the more you go out in nature, the more that stuff doesn't bug you. You know, I
True.
was
Mhm.
talking about Africa on a podcast and saying, look, you know, some people freak out when they see a lion take down a gazelle, but it's the way of
Hmm.
life. And
Yep.
for us, we're like, dude, look at that. You know, you feel bad
Uh-huh.
for
Yeah.
the gazelle. You have this,
You do.
that sucks,
Hmm.
but it's like, wow, it's amazing how fast and how like
Yeah.
the
To be there watching it
power.
is
Mhm.
crazy. Yeah.
It is. It's so, you know, stuff happens in nature, but the more you're in it, snakes and stuff like that, it just kind of becomes part of who you are, and that's who we are. We are
Hmm.
part of that.
Yep.
Mhm.
So, I do want to
True.
go to the Pacific Northwest because you guys went up to Washington State too, and I know that we were
Hmm.
up in Anacortes, Whidbey Island, and all of
Yep.
that area a
Yep.
couple years
Same
ago,
here.
and
Yep.
Yeah, beautiful.
that is the orcas out there. Did you get to experience
Hmm.
them?
Right.
We did. I don't
Oh.
remember if it was the J pod that we saw. Do you remember, Steve? It was
I
one of the
think that was
more
a J-pod.
known at the time. I haven't kept up with it since, so I don't know what the current pods are. But at the time, that was one of the more popular pods that they were tracking. So it was kind of cool. We knew, you know, the guides knew which ones they were, which is really neat to know. Like that's this one, that's this one. Kind of like in Africa, like we had done the same thing after a few years of going. Like they're pointing out that this one's Scar and this one's that after watching Big Cat Diary. We're like, we know these cats.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, you do start to know it's like the wolves, starting
Yeah.
the wolves are making a comeback right now. Sequoia National Forest has in that area, there's like a pack out there that's been traipsing around
Sequoia?
300. Yes. I
Oh,
was watching them
didn't
last
know that.
night. Oh my gosh, I'll have to send you guys a video on it. Everyone,
Yes,
if you go to
yes.
Save the Redwoods League and follow their social media. I was seeing that and they're howling and carrying, oh my gosh, because they've been,
Oh, awesome.
oh, it is, because
Oh,
there was one wolf that was going and, got into Oregon. This was about 10, 15 years ago. And then somebody shot him. Some hunter did shot
Jesus.
the wolf.
Oh, of course.
And it's like, this was like the comeback of this species that, is from there and lived there and, had been traipsing around and really needed a mate to make it start to have I was going to say a viable herd, but these are wolves. But you know what I
Yeah.
mean? To make a comeback,
Yeah.
it needs a mate.
Pack.
It's like, even what's going on in the border in Arizona. Of course, we have all these real issues with people, but what we're doing in the border is also really hurting our wildlife. So the
Yeah, I
ocelots
bet.
are making a return. And at one point we had El Jefe, which was a jaguar, and you start to know these animals because there's so
Mm-hmm.
few of them, but it's like, please, nobody touch Jaguar. And El Jefe, I think,
Right.
isn't any longer either. But the Jaguars are
Mm-hmm.
coming back. And the Jaguars used to be all the way up to the Grand Canyon in species,
Mm.
and live out in
Wow.
Arizona and New Mexico. And it's so cool to see
Aren't there
them
still
coming
some
up.
in the mouth of not the mouth, the delta of the Colorado River? I thought there were still a few in there.
I think, yeah, maybe mountain lion, but right now
Maybe
they're,
south of, I don't know. I'm not
that's what
sure.
it used to be. If there could be one or two here and there, but
Mm.
definitely they are slowly coming back over the border. So I'm kind of interested
Mm-hmm.
in this one area of Texas where the ocelots are. And
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, they're also,
Hmm.
the Chihuahuan Desert is starting to see, yeah, it's pretty cool. And so, all these animals we always get nervous about and everything. It's really cool to see a comeback and be part of it. And like the whales, the
mm-hmm.
whales are super
Definitely.
important and they're all
Mm-hmm.
around the world in different ways and unfortunately used in different ways. So, tourism, responsible tourism,
Yes.
really does help the education process.
Mm-hmm.
But then I do
It
believe
does.
too, we can help whether or not we've seen a whale, especially now with what we have on the internet and through TV and stuff. Because we can't all go everywhere, right? It's just
Right.
the way it's not going to
Mm-hmm.
be. So whatever we can do, we should still be part of it because they're doing their part for us. So that's
Right.
my big speech of the day. Save the whales. Everyone, keep in touch with us at bigblendradio.com. And if you go to Asheville, North Carolina, and you love animals and nature and beer, dogs, and good food, check out lion-rose.com. It's an awesome place to stay in the Montfort Historic District. And really, Stephen Karen will tell you where to go to see waterfalls, wildlife, butterflies, salamanders, you name it, elk in their backyard,
Yeah.
literally bears,
Yeah.
So if you love wildlife, they're the place to go. So thank you so much for joining us here, guys.
Thanks.
Sure thing.
It was fun.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio. Keep up with our shows at bigblendradio.com.